A game room owner is now suing Lubbock County, saying county commissioners have overstepped their authority when amending the 2024 game room ordinance.
KCBD News Channel 11's Madeline Hall joins us now with more on the case and a look at how the county is enforcing its rules. Madeline?
Karen and Abner, Eric Thompson is the owner of El Fronterizo, which is just east of the interstate near County Road 7340 and southeast Lubbock County. He says he's trying to level the playing field when it comes to Lubbock County's enforcement of its game room ordinance. He's suing to stop what he calls unconstitutional and unenforceable amendments passed by county commissioners last month.
The whole idea behind the ordinance was to put together something where it could be evenly and thoroughly across the board enforced. And once again, that hasn't happened.
The lawsuit focuses on three major changes: the requirement that facilities must leave doors unlocked, signage that states gambling is illegal in Texas, and new requirements that shorten the hours of operation. Thompson says the hours in particular are hurting his business.
But since the hours change, you're looking at 50, 60 people showing up during a day, and that's it.
Lubbock County Sheriff Kelly Rowe and his designated deputies are in charge of inspecting the game rooms and ensuring compliance. He says first and foremost, the hours change was because of some rooms' proximity to family facilities.
Some of these game rooms have ended up close to sports complex for kids and whatnot. They've heard from some parents and some folks there that they're kind of appreciative of that point.
Thompson's lawsuit also outlines what he describes as government officials' animosity toward game rooms. He says County Judge Curtis Parrish and Sheriff Rowe's sentiment, quote, resulted in an attempt to regulate the game room industry out of existence.
You read the sheriff's article, and, he calls those people that go to those places scumbags. All right, they're not. They're grandmas, they're grandpas. They're working people.
Rowe said while not every game room is actively engaging in illegal conduct, all of them are still, by nature, illicit enterprises.
These are criminal organizations. Gambling is illegal, not only by the statutes of the state of Texas, but the Constitution of the state of Texas. And it's a real challenge to reconcile trying to, quote unquote, legalize or create a framework that legalizes these types of businesses when by their very nature they're illegal.
Thompson says he is focused on compliance, though, both with state law and the ordinance, and with preventing crime at his business.
We go to great lengths to keep drugs out of our business. We go to, we don't really have to. I've never really had to deal with prostitution or human trafficking. But, that stuff is not allowed in our business. So for them to just sit there and categorically say this stuff goes on, that's not true.
His attorney, Benjamin Garcia, says he even offered to train the sheriff's office on what compliance looks like. Sheriff Rowe is responsible for not only inspecting the facilities, but issuing citations and reporting back to the permit office. The tax assessor collector's office, which acts as the permit office for game rooms, reports it has not issued a single citation since the ordinance passed 2 years ago. Still, Sheriff Rowe says compliance and safety is something area law enforcement needs to stay on top of.
There's still no shortage of individuals trying to bypass those legal limitations, particularly with regard to cash payouts and those types of things that we will have to continue to investigate for as long as we don't have an absolute prohibition against these types of game room operations.
Now, Thompson is not seeking any monetary relief. His lawsuit is simply intended to overturn the new amendments added to the ordinance. He says when the ordinance first passed 2 years ago, he was all for it, but it's no longer a conversation between game room owners and the county. He said they're making it too difficult to operate, and there's nothing left to do than take legal action. Les Hatch is the judge assigned to the case. Karen and Abner.